Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to DRS Season 9, and it's Round 9 at Zandvoort. And as you can see by the weather conditions in front of you, it's going to be an interesting qualifying session. No action on track just yet. Obviously it will be interesting to see if the track dries out as the session progresses or if the track gets worse as the session progresses. I think if this track was getting worse, we'd see a lot more activity a lot earlier. And then obviously as we progress later and later on into the session, we may have a completely dry track or a very, very wet circuit. So the drivers will have weather information in front of them that I don't have. It's difficult for me to tell where this weather is going to go. This is one of the first cars out on track. We have Stoffel driving for Haas. We have a few cars out on track now. Ariamondi, Arno Goos, Stoffel, Dan Rietveld, as well as Nick Gishen. Everybody wants to get out there. Got to set that benchmark. If you don't set the benchmark, qualifying will end here for you. I don't know if you want to start at the back of the field in Zandvoort. We're going to get a look at our first flying lap this evening. Here we go, Stoffel goes over the line to start that lap now. First man to start a flyer. How's he going to approach turn 1? It was a bit hairy that first lap in the wet. Guys don't tend to do the same amount of miles in the wet as they do in the dry. Sometimes when you just approach that first corner, you're a bit tentative on the brakes. You're not quite sure how the car is going to react. But if the session does stay this way, I guarantee you these times will come down. The more the guys spend out on track in these conditions, the quicker they'll get. Still riding with Stoffel. As you can see, the intermediate tyre is the tyre of choice. Conditions not overly wet. As you can see, still a lot of spray on track, so nowhere near slick conditions at the moment. I was about to get excited that he went purple, but now remembered, the first man to go over that sector, of course it's Stoffel. Stoffel now goes around the bank corner. He'd love to go around so much quicker, but he's in the wet. Goes over the line, sets the first lap time to 1:18.7. And as this session goes on, that lap time is going to fall down the order surely. Dan Rietveld goes into P1, then Ariamondi into P2. Stoffel already demoted into third out of the 3 drivers that have set a lap time. Times will come down if the track's improving. They will come down consistently. Nick Gishen over the line. That wasn't a representative lap, he'll go around again. A lot of times what you see in these wet quali sessions, you don't see a normal qualifying session where the guys go out, have an out lap, have a run, have an in lap. A lot of the guys will put on a set of intermediates and do 3 or 4 laps. We've seen it in the past. And then as the track comes to them, the lap times will just progressively come down. Right now with the Alpine, this is Shane. Alpine, not a manufacturer that's doing too well this year. They would have been hoping for a lot better. Fastest lap so far, 1:17.3, and that's Stoffel. Lap times are just going to keep on coming down. And if we do get a wet track if we do get a dry track at the end of the session, then these lap times are going to look very, very different, and the order you see in front of you now means absolutely nothing. Obviously, this is a full quali run here in DRS on a Thursday night. That means we run Q1, Q2 and Q3. We started with 18 drivers. Means we're going to lose 3 drivers at the end of this session. They have 12 minutes to get out there and do something. Then we go into Q2, and that will determine our 10 fastest cars shootout for Q3. And remember, Q3 might be dry, so it's going to be crucial who gets into that top 10. Fuster, one of the drivers yet to set a lap time, as is Levy and Boinkies. All 3 of those cars I just mentioned are out on circuit. Boinkies getting a bit messy there on the exit of the final corner. He's going to have dirty tyres on a wet race circuit. He's just going to have to go around and do it again. If he's got the fuel to do so, he'll just stay out there. It's a 124. Remember, 3 cars will be eliminated, so it's not going to be enough just to go around and set just any lap time. I've seen in the past sometimes when there is just 15 drivers at the start of the race, guys don't really take it seriously, just put in a lap, go back into the pits, no one's getting eliminated. That is not the case tonight. Drivers will be eliminated, so you have to put in a decent effort. Provisional pole, Stoffel leads the session. And now we join Boinkies again at a very unfortunate time. That's the second time we've done that. Both times we've got on board with the Alpine, he's run wide. So let's just leave Boinkies in peace and see if he can set a lap time without us cursing him. This is the Alpha Tauri of Flynn. Currently P13, a 118.1. Querbus has gone into the lead position, 117.1. Remember, these times are going to come down. If this track is improving, it's going to be so crucial for you to be out on track until the very last second of qualifying. If the track is improving at an extreme rate, your lap that was good enough for P15 may not be worth anything in a few minutes from now. So everyone's going to have to be out on track. The track doesn't seem to be improving. Don't think anyone's going to try the slick. Still a lot of spray coming off those tires. And still a lot of visible raindrops. Querbus leads the way, 17.1. Then Stoffel, 17.3, very close behind. Swiss, 17.3, we haven't mentioned him. Arno Goes, 1:17.4. Time so close together. Then Rota, 17.4. Panda, 17.6. Times very close together, and they're only going to come down more. Flynn pops himself into P6 and demotes Panda. It's a 1:17.5. Four of those cars just covered by 1/10.5. Be interesting if those times remain that close on a dry circuit, or if this is something unique to the wet setup of the circuit. Querbus still out front. That lap time still good enough for the best of the night so far. 17.1 hasn't been beaten so far. This is the Alfa Romeo P18, 122.5. Needs to find something better. This is Esatronic Going slowly there on the inside of the track. Just wants everybody to get out of the way. Let everybody go. So he can have a little bit of peace. A little bit of space. Try and put a lap together. Something that can send him into Q2. Ariamondi, he has retired from the session. Crucially, he is in P15. 1.8. That is a 1:18.1. The three cars behind him are quite a drop off behind him. Almost a second. So he might feel comfortable with that lap time. But I'm almost certain these guys will bring these lap times down. And that may prove a fatal blow for Ariamondi in this qualifying session tonight. Means you're going to be starting towards the back of the field. You'll be hoping to survive Q1. And he'll be watching the three men behind him very closely. Levy and Esotronic, they are out on circuit. Fuster, the other man, he is in the pits. We'll keep our eyes on those final three. But as things stand, Fuster, Levy, Esotronic, they are on course to be eliminated. 1:16.9. Cuevas goes 2/10 faster than his previous best and just extends the gap at the front. And he'll be hoping for a wet race because he seems to have the class of the field so far. 0.4 of a second cover that front row in a field that is otherwise very close. So Cuevas showing a little bit of domination early on in the rain. How will that translate if the track dries up? And more importantly, how does this translate to the race? Are we having a wet race? Or will we have a very, very different scenario and a track that is bone dry? Something we keep on forgetting. The weather could get worse. We keep on talking about the track getting better. Times might start simply getting worse. Levy, he was able. It's now 17.6. Just look at that midfield. Down from P2 to P9 of 0.3 of a second. Incredibly close there in the top 10, with the exception of your leader. The only driver in the 1:16s, it's 1:16.9, and then the next best is a 17.3. So 0.4 of a second cover that front row. Now Estronic. Wonder if he's got damage on that car or if he's just having serious problems trying to keep that car facing the right way in the rain. Still looking for his first lap time of the evening. He has one there at 1:22.5. It's not a representative lap time. He'll be looking for his first representative lap time of the evening to try and send him into Q2. Time is running out. Nick Gishin gets out of the way. He has gone fastest. Second man into the 1:16.9s. He's gone just ahead of Cuevas. So I wonder if this is a sign of the track getting better, or if this is just the drivers getting a little bit more confident now as the session goes on. Getting more and more used to the conditions, getting more and more used to the inters. And you just start to have that little bit more bravery. Leaving to the viewers, I see there's a few viewers. Very quiet in the comment section, not sure why. Let me know if you're watching and give me some predictions. And if anybody knows what's happening with the weather, let me know. This is Arno Goes. Saw him going over the grass there. Of course, in any qualifying lap, leaving the circuit is going to completely destroy your lap. But in a wet race, it takes so much longer just to get the heat into those tires, to clean up the tires. 0 to cool. Went over the line in P6. He now gets out of the way. It's going to be a very busy racetrack towards the end here. And hopefully guys who are desperate to get that final run in aren't going to find traffic on the way. Here we go. Here is Fuster 1:18.2. If he wants to get himself up into that top 15, he just needs to find himself exactly 1/10th. Driver ahead of him 1:52. Fuster 2:42. Needs to find 900ths of a second to get himself into the top 15. Ariamondi will be watching that lap time closely. It will be the decider of if he goes forward in qualifying or not. This is Swiss 1:17.3. There's so many 1:17.3s and 1:17.4s on your screen that I can't even number them all. Satronic, he's back in the pits with just over 2 minutes remaining on the clock, and he's not going to go out and try and improve. That's enough for Satronic. He's retired from the session. So obviously doesn't feel like he can get a decent lap time in these conditions. Top 3 all remain in the pits. Remember now, if you're at the top of the field, every moment you spend on track that you don't actually need to spend on track, well, it's risky. You go off the track, you damage the car, you retire from the session, well, you're going to be starting from the back of the field come race time. Okay, we've got some info in the comment section, and if this is to be believed, folks, it's going to get even more interesting. We're going to have a full wet race, and if that includes blue tires from start to end, well, how many of the drivers have prepared for that situation? This is the Alpine of Shane, currently P11, 1:17.4. Not a bad lap time, but look how many drivers have 1:17.4s. Zero too cool up into P3. Remember, Quibus had the fastest lap time for quite some time, and he's been demoted to P4. It's the sort of track evolution we see in these interchangeable conditions. It's a guessing game of if this track is going to improve as qualifying goes on, or if we're just going to see these conditions throughout, or possibly it could still get worse. Or on a host 1:16.6. That is your fastest time. Flynn P2. Nick Ishin has retired from the session. This is Zero to Cool, currently in P5. See backing off as well. Might be a session. Look, Boinkies has done it. He has been able to, right at the end there, gets himself up into P15. Means both Alpines will be going through. Speaking of both Alpines, Shameless went up into P2, 1:16. That's a 1:16.7. Nice lap time at the end. He's already through to Q2, but that just confirms it. And as for Boinkies in the second Alpine, he'll be happy to get through. Wasn't the easiest session. Spent a lot of time out on track. Just couldn't get those lap times in, and then got the lap time in when it counted the most. Ariamondi, Esotronic and Fuster will be the 3 drivers eliminated from the session. They won't be able to improve. One of them is in the pits and the other 2 have already retired from the session. So 1 Williams, 1 McLaren and 1 Alfa Romeo will drop out of qualifying. There we go, there are your official results for Q1. Going through to Q2, Honor goes through with the fastest time, 1:16.6, then changes behind 1:16.7, another 1:16.7 for Panda, so the top 3 really close. then Flynn P4, Nick Kishin P5. He's followed by 0 to Pool, Kurbis, Levy, Stoffel, Swiss, Chayboy, Dan Ritfeld, Rota, and then it's Kev and Boinkies. Eliminated from the session, Ariamondi, Fuster, and Esotronic. We're back. That was a quick break, wasn't it? Ready for Q2. 3 cars have been eliminated from the 18 that started the session. We'll be down to 15. That means the track's going to be a little bit more quiet. Traffic's going to be a little easier to manage. For now, no movement in the pits. Obviously, the session a little shorter than Q1. Q1 is 18 minutes. Q2 just the 15. And then Q3 the shortest of all, just the 12 minutes. Kurbis getting out there early. This will be an important session. As you can see, the track is dry. The drivers are on softs. We have an interchangeable race with wet and dry. This will give the drivers their first taste of the track in dry conditions. And I wonder what Q3 will be like. More wet and more of this. Still very overcast, so the rain could be back by the end of Q2, and if that's the case, everybody needs to do a lap time as early as possible. This is the McLaren of Kurbis. He went into provisional pole for quite some time. At the end of Q1 he landed up in P4. Still a very decent lap time. The lap time in this session will bear no resemblance to what these guys did in Q1. Seems like he's done an outlap and he's going to do another outlap. Just weaving over the start finish line there, so it doesn't look like he's in a hurry to do a fast lap. Disqualified from the session for blocking the pit lane. That is a very, very odd one. But we have a disqualification and it's going the way of the Aston Martin. So Arno Goes will start. Well, I believe he's going to start from the back of the field if it's a disqualification. May be able to hold on to that 15th place, but I think he'll be starting from the back. This is Panda. No lap times just yet. Kurbis was one of the first men out. So let's ride on board with him. Where is he? He's approaching the business end of the circuit. Now he activates DRS. So 115.5. That wasn't his fast attempt. Saw him go around and have 2 outlaps. Now this is Boinkies. He was quick in sector 2. Dan Ritfeld, P2 at the moment, 110.6. These times not as close as the times we saw in the rain. Shane currently the fastest man on track. It's a 110.0. Then the next best, Dan Ritfeld, 110.6. So big gaps here in the times. These are the initial times. Remember, the guys are also coming from a wet track, adjusting to the dry circuit. Lap times will get faster with time. Kurbis, fastest in sector 2. I don't always trust those graphics, but if they're to be believed, Purple in sector 2. This is a lap to watch. Where's it going to put him? Remember, he had 2 outlaps. There we go. Good enough. 109. 0.8, more than good enough. Top of the list. Hey guys, thanks a lot in the comment section. Happy birthday. Glad you guys are watching. Kurbis so far, fastest man, 109.8. Nobody else in the 109s just yet. Shane's gone out, set a lap time. He's returned to the pits. It's the end of his first run. Lebby is finishing off his out lap, looking for his first timed lap of the evening. Still a few cars looking for timed laps. Kev, J-Boy, Lebby, Stoffel. And then obviously we're not going to see any more of Arno Hurst. He's been disqualified from the session. New man at the top. Times are always changing. 109.3. Much quicker. This track is improving. Nick Gishin goes up into P1. These gaps are just very, very big between the cars. I think this is an indication of the track having variable conditions. May not be wet, but the track is not at optimal temperature. I actually saw Kurbis, who's currently in P2 with a 109.8. He actually had a slightly different strategy. He had the 2 outlaps. Thank you, Shane. Where is Shane? There we go. Shane is currently on the second row. 110.0. It's going to be interesting to see now what are the final 5 drivers, what are they able to do, because everyone in that top 10 is going to be looking at the bottom 5 and going, is my lap safe? They'll be thinking maybe they retire from the session. But if those, rather 4 at the bottom, seem very threatening, well then everybody's going to have to stay out on track. Nick Gishin doesn't agree with me. He retires from the session, but he is at the top of the field. I don't think he's going to have any issues unless we see a complete reversal of the order. Still waiting for lap times from Kev, J-Boy and Stoffel. There are those 3 drivers who ride with Stoffel. I think he is the furthest along on the circuit. He'll be the first of those 3 drivers to set a lap time. Now goes around the final corner. Such a good looking corner. Can imagine how good it feels. Stoffel over the line in the Haas, goes up to P4, 109.8. And that should be good enough to take him into Q1. And as he went P4, he got demoted to P5. J-Boy up into P4, 109.8. Almost matching Stoffel's time, 0.02 of a second cover those 2 cars. Kev now will go over the line. He sets his first lap of Q2. And it's a decent one, 109.8. It's going to put him up into P3. And now the cars at risk. Panda, Flynn, Boinkies and Swiss. This is Swiss. Will he dive into the pits, or is this a fast lap? Is this a second attempt? Currently in P14 at serious risk. He improves, goes up into P8. And for now, he will be safe. Currently being eliminated, sitting in the pits, Rota, Panda, Boinkies, all 3 of those cars in the pits. Flynn, another car that could be eliminated. He is out on track, about to start a fast lap, having another run. Wants to get himself up into Q1. Doesn't want his session to end here. Slebby seems to be going slowly. I think he's just finished the lap. Shane back out there, currently P7, 1:10.0. Would have thought that lap time was comfortable when he set it. Things have changed. Nick Gishin, he set the fastest lap and retired. And he is still the fastest lap, even though he hasn't been here for quite some time. But now Flynn in the second of the AlphaTauris. His teammate actually just improved and got himself into the top 10. Now he's going to try and get himself at the into the top 10, and hopefully it's not going to be at the expense of his teammate. Thank you, Aphrodite. So this is Flynn. Let's see if he's able to find any sort of an improvement. He does improve, but it's not going to be good enough. It's only good enough for P11. He's on the wrong side of the top 10. Still got 4.5 minutes to go. It's not all doom and gloom. There still is a chance. Dan Rietveld dives into the pits. Dan Rietveld and his teammates, so both Red Bulls, seem to be pretty comfortable at this stage. P4 and 5. Who is out on track? There we go, Shane. Of the fastest men, this is the only car out on track. Everyone else sitting in the pits. Quibus also on an outlap. Shane pulls into the pits. Currently his time was a 1:09.5, good enough for P3. And this is Quibus. It's on an outlap. Remember, he was really quick in the wet. He was this quick in the beginning of Q2. I'm sure he's got a little bit more. Something he's holding on to for Q3. Some of these guys, they just give enough effort to get into Q3. And then that is the only time you will see all their cards. They'll tell you they're slow up until Q3. And then they can't hide their pace anymore because they actually need it. Quibus, he got lucky there at the start of his fast lap. There was a car exiting the pits. And if he had just been a few meters back, that car would have come out into his line. So luckily for him, Quibus should not have been impeded there. Might have just broken his concentration for a second. Hopefully he can just get his head down and carry on with the lap, and that seems to be the case because he's gone purple in sector 1. Fastest man on track at the moment, Quibus. Purple in sector 1. Let's see what he can do now in sector 2. Let's keep our eyes on the McLaren. Quibus is definitely on the move. Fastest of all in Q1, but I think he's backed out of this. Yep, he's backed out of this in a big way. Still time remaining on the board, so the guys can get around, have another go at it. And we've been seeing the guys having multiple runs, multiple outlaps. This is Quibus. Went really quick on that last lap. Was quick in sector 1. And then we saw him back off completely. He goes into his final run, and I think he's given up on that already. So I don't think Quibus is going to find any sort of improvement. There is still time to get around and have a final run, but we have no idea of his fuel levels or the conditions of those tyres. But visually, they don't look too great. Swiss currently P5. The leading AlphaTauri, his teammate, doing everything he can to squeeze into the top 10. Currently in P11, and what makes it worse, it's in P11 by 1/100th of a second. That's how much he needs to go into Q3. Just needs to find himself 1/100th of a second, but sometimes, as small as that may be, it may be a step too far when you're already on your own limit. So Shane been having a good evening so far. We'll be hoping for it to stay dry. Depends how do these guys have the car set up. If they know the race is going to be wet, they may have this car set up for the wet, which means it's not going to be optimal qualifying times. Car won't be set up for that. It will be set up for dealing with the wet conditions. Guys might be riding higher ride heights, more downforce, things like that. It really depends how you're going to set up the car, what you think's coming in the race. Then Redfeld improves at the end up into P3, just confirms his position. He was already through to Q3. Now just confirms it. Shane, 108. What is that? That's a 108.9. Times are coming down. Goes up into P1. Panda also having one final go. He improved, currently in P5. Did he get over the line? No, he didn't. Check the flag. That's the end for Panda. Let's see at the back of the field. Flynn was not able to get a lap in, so he will fall out, and in fact he's been demoted to P12. So I think we can confirm that the car's being knocked out. Stoffel, Flynn, Boinkies, Rota, and then Arno Ghost disqualified early on in Q2. And there we go, your results for Q2. Shane led that session, 108.9, just getting into the 108s. Then we've got Nick Gish in P2, Levy P3, Dan Redfeld P4, Quibus, Panda, Swiss, Kev, Zero to Cool, and J-Boy making up that crucial top 10. Unfortunately not in the top 10 and eliminated from qualifying. Stoffel, Flynn, Boinkies, Rota, and Arno Ghost through disqualification. Welcome back. I mistakenly muted myself. But we are back for the business end of qualifying. Q1, Q2. It's all about setting the top 10. And then the top 10. This is your final shootout for who's going to start where. Conditions don't look too fantastic. We see very overcast conditions and a lot of cars getting out on track very, very early on. So I wonder if they are expecting rain towards the end of the session. And effectively, if you do have rain at the end of the session, well then it just means the session is going to be a lot shorter. Nobody's going to be able to improve the moment a single drop falls. Quibus, he's had quite the bit of screen time today. He's been on the business end of the timing sheets. Kev brought the Red Bull to life in Q2. His teammate also through to Q2. Good night so far for Red Bull, J-Boy. Another driver through to Q3. having a solid season. Panda also on an outlap. Such a busy racetrack, all 10 cars, 8 of them on outlaps, 2 of them on fast laps. One of them on fast lap is Nick Gishin. The other one is Zero to Cool. This is Nick Gishin on his first attempt of Q3. This will be his first lap in anger. Really pushing. Giving it absolutely everything. I never trust the drivers in Q1, Q2. I always think the fastest are going to hold back just that little bit. Don't want to give their nearest competition too much information. But this is where all of those veils come off and everybody has to show what they're capable of. And especially if we get rain at the end, just means these first laps are even more crucial. Nick Gishin, he's going to go over the line to set the first lap time of the evening for Q3, that is. It's a 109.0. And then Zero to Cool, I was going to say he's going to be the next man over the line, but he's pulled into the pits. Obviously not too happy with that lap time. We joined Dan Rittveld because he's going to go over the line any moment now. J-Boy did slot up into second, and Dan Rittveld demoting J-Boy to P4. Dan Rittveld goes P2. Nobody quite catching Nick Gishin just yet. Really flying the Ferrari flag high today, Nick Gishin. Something all Tifosi would love to see. If you're the Tifosi, you'll be happy that Ferrari's winning a race, but not going to be too happy that Sainz is the one winning, because that's the driver Ferrari fired. So even when Ferrari are looking great, they somehow mess up the call. It's not a pit strategy, it's a contract strategy. Dan Rittveld into the pits after his first attempt, 109.4. That was his first attempt, as is Panda just behind him, 109.6. All of these cars returning to the pits. They're going to get a fresh set of soft rubber and they're going to go out there and try and improve. Obviously the drivers will know, I have no inclination, but the drivers will know if this session is due to end wet. And if that is the case, we're going to see these drivers coming in and getting out there very, very quickly, almost with no interruption. You can see very busy pit lane and there's already a Ferrari coming out while some cars are still being pushed in. So I think the drivers are not going to spend too much time in the pits, and it could be an indication that they're expecting conditions to worsen towards the end. I don't see any signs of raindrops, but we know that once we see that first one, things can change in a matter of 3 laps. Nick Gishin, fastest so far, came in, got out immediately, not wasting any time, looking to improve, not happy with the 109 flat. It's fastest time so far, but he wants to get himself up into the 108, secure that pole position, make it a certainty. This is Zero to Cool, one of 2 men yet to set a lap time. Lebby's on an outlap. Zero to Cool is on a fast lap. Those are the 2 yet to have any sort of time in Q3. Don't want to be starting P8, P9, P10. You're just right in the middle of the midfield. Everything gets so busy. And here at Zandvoort, it's a track I like to, at least Sector 1, I like to describe Sector 1 as a roller coaster. And if you're going to be in the midfield of some pretty angry buzzing bees all around you, it's not really the best place to be. It's almost like you'd rather be towards the front or towards the rear. being right there in the middle can be a little stressful. Zero to cool, he was able to get that lap time in, and it was a decent lap time, a 109.5. Puts him up onto the second row. Now we wait for the remaining Aston Martin. Remember, he lost his teammate in Q2 due to a disqualification. So he's flying the Aston Martin flag in Q3. Be relying on him to get as high up as he can. Nick Gishin improves. And then Levy goes over the line with a 109.3, and it's good enough to get him onto the front of the second row. And Zero to cool pushed down to P5. Everyone has now set a lap time in this top 10. But you really see this Q3, it's the shortest session, and the time really creeps up on you. You've just got 4 minutes to go. And if you're on the wrong end of that timing sheet, you better get a move on. He'll probably consider it the wrong side of the timing sheet. Swiss currently in P10. 110.2, looking for an improvement, and we'll see if he's going to get that improvement. He does. What an improvement. 109.2. It's good enough for P2. And he joins the Ferrari up on the front row. And what does the rest of the field have to say about that? This is Levy. I think we're going to see him dive into the pits, are we? Yes, he dives into the pits. So not a lot of action out on track. Everyone's sitting in the pits with the exception of Swiss. And he has just set a lap time, so he will be on his way into the pits. This is Kev. He's on an outlap. The only car out on track with Swiss is on an in lap. And Kev, he's looking to improve. He's trying to, or at least hoping to, find a empty part of the racetrack where he can just stitch together the perfect qualifying time. So much goes into that all-out one-lap pace. You might have the pace, you might have practiced it 100 times. But when it really comes down to it, when it comes down to that final run, your last attempt, you can see P1, you know how much time you need. We don't see it, but the driver knows exactly where his delta is, if it's in the red, if it's in the green. And he'll be pushing on the absolute edge, and if you're able to stitch that lap together, fantastic job. And if you're able to do that without any traffic, well, then you're lucky. And I think he's planned this perfectly. Kev has put himself on a part of the racetrack where there is no traffic. The next car, I think it's an Alpine, and it's quite a far way up the road. So Kev shouldn't have any issues with what I believe will be his final run. Just over 1.5 minutes remaining. Could theoretically have 2 laps, but I don't think he'd have enough battery charge for that second lap. A silly limitation that the ERS does bring to Formula 1 is in qualifying. You simply can't do 2 or 3 runs because the last 2 will be pretty useless. This is the Red Bull. Kev currently P8. His teammate is slightly better in P5. They're just 2/10 of a second apart, the 2 Red Bulls. Whereas Nick Gishin, current provisional pole sitter, has been the fastest, and he's been the fastest by quite a margin. 0.4 of a second, almost half a second, and he's still not happy with it. He wants to rub salt into the wounds. He's out there again, just half a minute on the clock. Panda's just gone over the line and set a very impressive lap time for the very end of the session. Done a 109.1. Not able to take pole, but it will put him on the front row. But Nick Gishin, he's improving, he's going faster. He was fastest in Sector 2, fastest of all in Sector 2. And now he's going to go over the line, and we'll see if he's able to improve. Yes, he does. Not by much, but he does. The bragging rights are his. And Panda, I think he's also on a cooldown lap. This is Shane. Seems like his battery's fully charged, so I don't think this is a cooldown lap, but was he able to get over the line? I think he was able to get over the line. This should be his final run. Or he's missed it. I think he's missed that final run. He didn't get out of the pits in time. And he missed that final run. 10 or 15 seconds. I think in most part, that is your session. Did get a late improvement. Don't ever say that is your session. Dan Ritfeld goes up into P3. Leaves it late. The Red Bull driver puts up a decent position. Say this one was a bit of a surprise at the end of the night. Panda wasn't really floating around at the top of the timing sheets throughout the night, and then right at the end, there's the lap time. I tell you, sandbags, you only show your best right at the end. Never believe a sim racer. Now we just await the official results, and we will be underway with the real deal. Nick Gishin takes pole position for the Dutch Grand Prix for Ferrari. Very nicely done, the only driver in the 108s. Then joining him on the front row, Panda, another Ferrari powered car, the Haas in P2. They're followed by Dan Ritfeld and Kurbis on the second row, Swiss and Shane third row. Then we've got Lebby, Zero to Cool, P7 and 8, Kev P9, and J-Boy. He was the final driver in Q3. Obviously qualifying is just there to set the order. Q1 you lose a few drivers, Q2 you lose a few drivers, and then Q3 you set your top 10. But this is what it really comes down to. You don't get points for qualifying, you only get points for the race. And if you're looking at the circuit that I'm looking at, I'm pretty glad I'm not driving in this one. If I was, I'd want to start right at the back of the field. What will 18 drivers look like going into turn 1 in these conditions? We have no idea. Drivers will be looking at their final strategies. Obviously everybody's going to start on the blue tyre. But here we go. In real F1 we'd never have this start. Safety car start. But here we go. We're underway. Haas versus Ferrari into turn 1. Seems like everybody is through nicely. Don't see anyone falling through the order or anything too dramatic. Everybody is on the wet tyre. That's just confirmation. Obviously if the track does start to improve, we're going to see them coming in for inters and maybe even dries. But we don't know the long term of this weather. Is it something that will go away over the time in the race, or is it something that's going to stay there throughout? And if that is the case, well, then the Ferrari driver out front seems to be really loving these conditions. He's already got a gap of 1.4 seconds, does Nick Gishen. Panda was able to put that horse up onto the front row right at the end of qualifying. So far able to hold on to P2. With Dan Rietveld just behind him. Kurbis not far behind. Remember, Kurbis was quick in the wet in Q1. Does have decent pace in the wet. If he's able to bring that pace into the race, it's going to be very quick. But now Shane in the absolute slipstream around a banked corner in the wet. Insanity. But great racing. Shane all over the back of the McLaren, looking for a way past. But in these early stages, the spray, the cars left and right in your mirrors, everything's a little off-putting. And when you go for that move, you sort of need to know, you need to be sure. Virtual safety car, I'm sure it won't be our last. But we've had our first retirement, and it's going to be the McLaren of Fuster. Luckily just I'm not even going to say anything. I was going to say luckily just a virtual safety car, but folks, wait for it. I think it's about to go to a full safety car. I think it's going to go to a full safety car. There we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, I called that about at least 10 seconds earlier. I called that. For a second I did second guess myself, but there we go. First full safety car of the race. Triggered a virtual safety car, but almost immediately went into safety car mode, so I don't know what the initial trigger was for. But Fuster has retired from the race, leaving us with 17 drivers. And on this particular track layout, in these weather conditions, I'm almost certain we're going to see a lot more retirements. What this does do is make sure that if there's a driver that's very, very quick on the night, just make sure to keep him honest. He's not able to run away from the field. Safety car comes out, brings him back down to earth. This is one to watch, folks. Somebody's doing something a little different. The second AlphaTauri of Flynn, he's on a set of intermediate tires. Is the track ready for intermediates? Is it too early? Well, we'll find out as soon as Flynn is released from behind the safety car and he has to push with those tires. We'll see if he's losing time or gaining time, and if he is gaining any time, I'm sure we'll see this entire field follow suit. Conditions did look slightly worse at the start of the race, so I wonder if things are improving. Might still just be a little too early for inters. There's no way to tell now, because obviously the car isn't being driven in anger. The car is being driven within a delta to stay behind the safety car, but the moment you start to push those intermediates, you'll know if you made a good choice or not. But Flynn decides to take the gamble. He was on the wrong side of the timing sheets. He's in P16, so he needs to take a gamble if he wants to flip that around and get himself up into the top 5. So much spray on that final banked corner. Don't know if it's time for inters. See another car. Is that a car diving into the pits? Yes. Flynn. No? Esotronic. Esotronic dives into the pits. And I wonder if this is for damage or to get himself a set of inters as well. Let's have a look. Doesn't seem to be any wing damage. There was no wing change. And Esotronic also coming out on the mediums. He might have just seen that from Flynn. Maybe he heard it on the broadcast. Maybe he just saw it there on the timing sheets. and thought, you know what, we're under safety car. Let me go get a set of intermediates. I'm only going to lose 2 positions. I'll catch up to this queue and I'll have another go. I do understand the idea of going on to the inters. Obviously, if the track were suddenly to change and all of these drivers needed to make a pit stop, and you've already got those inters on your car, well, you're going to be on the right side of the field. But I think they may have just gone a few laps too early. Raindrops do seem to be lightening up, but obviously you cannot judge the drivers or the conditions too much right now. They are under safety car. These guys are driving slowly. The moment you have to push, the moment you try and brake late, that's the moment you will know if those inters are in operating temperature or not. Now the safety car pulls off into the distance as Nick Gishen will assume the role of temporary safety car. Obviously it's up to him to back up the field, and it's up to him to decide when he restarts this race. The job of the man in P2 is not to be caught napping. It needs to be all over the back of that gearbox. That's a good start by Nick Gishen. Doesn't get too much of a jump on his opponent, but a decent jump. Half a second into turn 1, Nick Gishen leads the way. Panda P2, as it's been for much of the race. Dan Rietveld P3. Ooh, we've got a car going off there in the back. I think, who is that? I think it was Arno Goos. There was an Aston Martin. We just caught a glimpse of it on the top of our screen, so we didn't really see what happened there. But Arno Goos has gone back in the field. I think that was the driver we saw go off. Luckily for us, no damage, no activation of any yellow cars. Panda leads the way. Dan Rietveld, we've had a big incident and we've missed it. Nick Gishen, virtual safety car. Oh wow, Ariamondi has retired from the session. And through all that drama, somehow Nick Gishen has lost the lead of the race. He's down into P4. Don't know if he must have just gone off track. Maybe missed the braking point, gone off track. Those cars were really close together. By the time he got back on track, he'd already lost 3 places. But obviously we didn't see it on screen. I can't confirm that. That's just what it appears to be. But we are under the second full safety car of the race. It's only lap 5. Now we've got a lot of safety cars. Sorry, pit stops happening. A lot of safety cars, I'm right actually. A lot of safety cars, the second one. But that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say we're going to get a busy pit lane. We're going to get a lot of guys stopping. I think we're going to see that intermediate tyre be the right choice now. Remember, safety cars still going to be out for another lap or 2. So the track's still going to have another lap or 2 to improve. And if it's not quite right for mediums right now, it might be in 2 laps from now. Now those cars that did make a pit stop, look what a difference that's made. Flynn up into P3. And Arno Goos, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I wouldn't call this a roll of the dice. I'd say this was a wrong tyre input. No, most people would just blame Jeff, but Arno Goos has gone into the pits, and instead of collecting a new set of intermediate tyres, well, he's collected a set of medium tyres. So I'm almost certain he will return to the pits to correct that issue. And look at that for a contrast. Now you have your top 3, Quibus, Levy and Swiss, but those 3 drivers are on the wet compound of tyre on a track that I don't think should be on the wet anymore. everyone behind them, with the exception of Arno Koos on the medium, is on the intermediate tyre. So if that wet tyre is the wrong choice, they're going to be sitting ducks at the start of the race. But as you can see, they're not coming into the pits because the field is already close together. Coming into the pits now means you're probably going to come out at the rear of the field. We'll see if that is true. This is Levy, with 3 of those drivers at the front on wet tyres. 2 of them carried on, Kurbis and Swiss. The third one came into the pits, and as predicted, it's going to be good enough to take him from P3 all the way to the back of the field. He's going to have to restart from P16. And then these guys here, I wonder if they've made the right call. Let me know there in the comment section. What do you guys make of it? Were these the leaders caught napping? Surely they should have gone on to the intermediate. Or are they expecting the conditions to get worse again? I'm not sure, but they've stayed out. They've held on to track position. They have that in their hand. But this isn't going to be a situation of a restart and you're on the mediums and the people behind you have the softs. This is very serious. If you are using blue tires on an intermediate track, the pace difference between the tires is ridiculous. It's not like anything you'll see in the compounds of the slick. It could also be possible. That's a good observation, thank you. They could be waiting for the slick, but I don't think that's gonna happen. We still see a lot of raindrops. We still see a bit of spray coming off those tires. Safety car is pulling off into the distance. So these guys are going to have to do the restart with the blue tire. We'll find out early on, probably in the first couple of corners, if they've made the right choice. Very tempting to just stay out, hold on to track position, but sometimes it can be a big mistake. Kurbis leads the way into turn 1, Swiss P2 leaders, they're not going to even try battle each other. Into turn 1, everyone just wants to get through without any damage. Look at this, we've got the 2 Alpha Tauris. This will be an interesting to watch because we've got the 2 Alpha Tauris, P2, P3, very different strategies. P2 on a set of wets, P3 on a set of inters. And surely those teammates will swap positions if they don't come into contact. And for a moment there, I thought we were going to see 2 Alpha Tauris flying off the circuit. And what would be a very unfortunate event. Both Alpha Tauris up in the points, almost making contact. And there we go, now we have seen a switch of teammates, and if Swiss isn't careful he's going to lose another. He's got a Red Bull on his inside. And Dan Rietveld, somehow, he has hijacked both those Alpha Tauris. He's taken P3 for himself. And that is fantastic from Dan Rietveld, came out of nowhere. Now, Kurbis, Panda into the lead. He's got those intermediates, and no wonder the 2 drivers on wets, those were the drivers in P1, P2 at the safety car restart. They've already started losing positions. Kurbis down to P2, Swiss having a worse time of it. He's down to P5. Will they come into the pits? Are they going to stay out there, wait for the dry? Surely not. Just losing an incredible amount of time. Now Arno Koos, he went into the pits, put on a set of mediums. I thought it was a mistake. Thought he'd come in to correct that mistake. He's come in and put on a set of softs. So Arno Koos at this stage trying out every single compound, making sure that Pirelli have data for every compound. Only thing we haven't seen from him is probably the hard compound. There we go, on a host this time, back onto the intermediate. Tyre he should have been on. I just wonder what happened there. It has happened to me once or twice before, but never more than once in a single race. And obviously you saw there, it did it to him twice. We've had a retirement, we've got a caution, hold your breath. And hopefully it will just be a caution. Sector 1, Sector 3, and as I say it, commentator's curse. We're under our third safety car. We've lost the Haas, we've lost Stoffel, and that means 3 retirements. Just gonna have the 15 drivers remaining on lap 10 of 36. And I wonder how many retirements we will have by the end of the race, because at the moment things look quite tough. Obviously very challenging conditions. We've seen wet conditions, we've seen intermediate conditions, we've even seen dry conditions. Not all in the race, but over the course of the night. And if these drivers are trying to get into any sort of tune as the night goes on, you just sort of get more and more comfortable in the car. This isn't helping at all. Conditions are constantly changing, compounds are constantly changing. And you've got to be on top of things, you've got to be able to adapt quickly. It's in a race like this, only the ones that are able to adapt quickly to these conditions can get the good results. And also in these conditions it can come down to luck. Find yourself at the bottom of the field, pit at the right time, and everything changes. Race is neutralized. Speaking of the dry tires, I think you're right. Whole bunch of drivers now coming out. Kev comes out on the hard, Flynn comes out on the hard, and then we've got Esotronic and Nick Geshen on the soft and the medium. So right now out there on track we have quite a mixture of compounds. We have every single compound with the exception of the blue wall wet tire. We have drivers on inters, we have drivers on hards, mediums and softs. So it doesn't seem like there is a clear consensus throughout the leaderboard. Guys have very different ideas of where the track is right now. I'm just not sure it's ready for inters. Never comfortable with inters on a track that still has spray. Feel like treaded tires should still be clearing that spray. And the moment you're driving through that film of water on a slick tire, things can get messy very quickly. Sometimes the lap or the track does come to you within a lap or two. It's just so risky. Go a few laps trying to get those dries up to temperature. But I think now, at least from the pit lane, looks like we're under proper dry conditions. And again, getting caught out like the other drivers did in the previous safety car. Seems like Zero to Cool just didn't do what everybody else did. He didn't come into the pits and put on a dry set of tires. He's still out there on the intermediate. And this track does look bone dry. We were still talking about spray, but all of a sudden I don't see any spray. It's gone. This track is dry, and this man is going to do the restart on a tire he really doesn't want to be on. Pesotronic now finds himself at the front of the field in P3. This race keeps on changing. We've had safety cars and pit stops and interchangeable conditions. Obviously this safety car does slow the race down, so if they were expecting it to get dry halfway through the race, safety car could slow it down. That dry comes a lot earlier, and it's only lap 12, and I think this will be a race where we hit our safety car limit, no more than 5. I've seen the safety car limit being breached a few times in the past 2 weeks. And now 0 to cool. This will be a painful pit stop. Like, he won't want to make this pit stop, but he'll look at those tyres and he'll know there's going to be nothing he can do at the restart. Might as well come in, rip off the band-aid, get back out there. But he's going to start right at the back of the field. He was leading this race. The Swiss is a really quick driver, but he's had a up and down night, and at the moment it's more down than it is up. Currently in P14. Arno Goes, seems like that car is ghosting, so I'm not sure if he's in the race anymore. Somehow, through all the mayhem, we have a Red Bull leading this race. You can see that coming. Every couple of laps seems to be there's a new favorite. But if these safety cars don't stop coming out, this is going to feel like a very long 50% distance race. We're only on lap 13. We're just over 1/3 distance. I want to thank also all the viewers of this channel. DRS last week, round 8, became the most viewed live broadcast race on the channel, reaching almost 350 views over the course of the week. So congrats to everyone at DRS for supporting the channel. We've had our restart. Kev leads the way. He's on a set of hard tyres. Let me know there in the comment section. Can you finish a race from this point on a set of hard tyres? Might be the case. A lot of drivers have chosen that option. Then we have another 5 drivers on the medium and just the 1 driver choosing to go on the soft. That's Esotronic. Should have a bit of pace in these early stages. Seems like the 2 drivers ahead of him are just starting to pull away, leaving 3rd place behind them. Kev leads the way from Nick Gishin. Nick Gishin should have a tyre advantage. He's in P2 at the moment, but he's on the medium. That's the faster of the 2 compounds. Kev's on the hard, but he'll be able to go longer into this race. Or will they both be able to finish? Just Nick Gishin's going to have dodgy tyres at the end. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comment section. Guys that have practiced Zandvoort, the guys that have got experience with Zandvoort, you're going to have a lot more knowledge than me. Nick Gishin goes over the line to set the fastest lap of the race on lap 15 of 36, and he's chasing Kev for all he's worth. 0.4 of a second is the gap. As soon as DRS becomes active, he's going to open that rear wing, and he's going to start giving that Red Bull all sorts of trouble. Look how close these 2 are now. Nick Gishin going fastest again in sector 1. fastest of all in Sector 1. So giving it absolutely everything. He's on the medium tyre. He can't stay behind the Red Bull. The Red Bull is on the hard tyre. And the whole point of being on that better tyre is to get past, build a gap. And if you're simply going to be stuck behind the harder compound until your compound drops off, well, that's not the strategy. Nick Gishin knows it. He needs to get past, and he wants to get past now, not in a few laps time, now. Make full use of those medium tyres while they're still fresh. It was a lot closer, and now it looks like he's almost backed off a little bit. There's a bit of space between these two cars, probably the biggest we've seen the space in a while, and Kev sets the fastest lap of the race, so he's responded. Remember, Kev is on the hard compound of tyre, and he was able to respond. Thank you, Madwell. Thanks for joining the stream as well, and thanks for the birthday wishes. Kev leads the way, Nick Gishin P2, and they couldn't be any closer. We've forgotten about what's happening behind them. There's a battle for P3, but we can't take our eyes off the battle for P1. There's a Ferrari all over the back of the Red Bull. And these two couldn't be any closer, just 0.2 of a second. We mentioned there was a battle for P3, and here's the battle for P3. It's a 4-car battle for P3. Flynn holds on to P3 for now, but Panda, Dan Rietveld and Levy all vying for that position. Back at the front, Nick Gishin still very close behind, 0.3 of a second. Hasn't been able to make the move just yet, but this time around he's going to open up DRS. He's going to give all the battery he has. And surely he's ahead before the corner, almost halfway down the straight he was ahead. Levy now sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:12.3, so the lap times are coming down and down and down. Nick Gishin leads the way, and the way he was hurrying that Red Bull, I won't be surprised if we see him run into the distance. Looked very, very quick, looked faster than the Red Bull. Just had to time the pass, get it done. Last thing you want to do, get damage. You're going to do that pass once and you want to do it right. Shane now sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:11.1. So these lap times falling and falling more and more and more. Remember, the track is going to come more to these dry tires. The track temperature is going to go up. These dry tires are going to come more and more alive. Nick Gishin almost thought he was going to dive into the pits. Goes very close towards the pit wall, obviously just trying to break any slipstream. 0.8 of a second is the gap, so Kev is still within DRS, and Nick Gishin is trying to change that. Wants to get him outside of DRS, then pulling away is going to be that little bit easier. So the battle for first place has fallen apart a little bit, but we can go back to the other battle, the battle for third place. Still a four-way battle. Panda leads the way, Flynn right behind him, then we have Dan Rietveld. Levy not far behind. He just set the fastest lap of the race not too long ago, so that Aston Martin does look in good shape. We have the two Mercedes, P7, P8, and then we have Swiss and 02 Cool making up the final points positions. This is Flynn. Remember, he set a fastest lap. That fastest lap, I believe it was just beaten by Shane on the last lap. This man does have pace, lighting up the timing screens. Just ahead of him, Panda, currently in P3. You can see P2 right ahead of him. And now Dan Rietveld gets past Flynn, and he'll be on his way to try and make it a Red Bull 2-3. Panda will see the Red Bull behind him and he'll think, damn, now there's one ahead of me, there's one behind me. He's going to get very sick of that livery. He's going to be trying to get past Kev. Difficult position to be in when you're in between two teammates. if those teammates are in communication and they can drive effectively, they can work as a team to both get past you. Very difficult to deal with both cars, especially if they're in communication. For now, best team on the night has to be Red Bull, Kev and Dan Rietveld, P2, P4. Panda doing a good job holding on to P3 for the time being. Nick Gishin, well, he's on a mission. He's 2 seconds out front. Nothing too much Kev can do about him just now. 2.1 seconds, so that gap continues to go up. Arno Ghost, he's at the rear of the field, but I believe that car's ghosting. So that position is a little irrelevant. And we have Shane P14, he's at the rear of the field. He was almost at the front of the field not so long ago. Shows you how things change in this race. This is Rota. This is the final driver in the points in P10. Second of the 2 Mercedes. His teammate up in P8, that's J-Boy. This is Levy. He's at the rear. What is a long DRS train, all fighting for the podium. Quite a feeling to be in 5th place and still see that podium ahead of you. Makes you push that little bit harder. If you're in P4 and you cannot see P3, it's a little demotivating. But when you're in P4 and you can see the podium, it just gives you that little extra. Flynn still very much in the middle of this DRS train, but nothing happening right now. Everybody's DRS is sort of cancelling out the other guy's DRS. So if you're not getting the advantage of the DRS and everybody's battery's flat, well, everybody just sort of sits in the same position. That's a situation we have here. This DRS train has been pretty unmoved. Nice helicopter shot. Wish we had a helicopter camera angle that I could switch to whenever I wanted to. Really nice camera angle, but we see too little of it in the game. This is Dan Rietveld, currently in P3, being followed by Panda. Panda looks to the inside ever so briefly, but just to show him the front wing. I don't think he actually thought of making the pass, but it's just to let the driver in front of you know you are looking for a mistake, you are waiting for it. This adds the pressure. This is the second Red Bull. He's already left his teammate behind. The 2 Red Bulls look, well, they are P2, P3, but they're nowhere near each other on track. Almost 4 seconds separate them, and while Kev is pretty comfortable in P2, the same can't be said about his teammate. Still leads that DRS train, and that DRS train has just become stale. Nothing happening. Pretty much everybody has low battery, and everybody's DRS is cancelling each other out. So those 4 cars have been driving around in the same order for quite some time. A little further back in the field, J-Boy trying to catch Swiss. He is in his DRS, 7/10 of a second. Needs to get a little closer than that if he intends making a move. 0 to cool, P9 and Rota, that final point. This is Levy. He's on the medium tyre, the next 4 cars ahead of him all on the hard tyre, so that'll be frustrating for him. He'll know he's got the superior tyre, he should be able to come through this field, but the DRS train is making that so much more difficult, and it's sort of neutralized his race for the time being. Had a lot of safety cars at the start of the race, a lot of rain, but now everything seems to have calmed down. And if you're hoping for a miracle to get you through the front of the field, you may have just run out of miracles for the night. You may have run out of safety cars and bad weather. Held my breath for a second there. Nicely done. We got Nick Gishin, Kev, Dan Ridfeld. Panda thought about it, but he's still in P4. But he's getting really close now. And he'll be thinking, am I going to stay here? Am I going to make the move? What's the plan? I'm tired of leading this DRS train. I need to get out of here. Flynn coming under a lot of pressure. Aston Martin, his teammate down in P15, not having the night he would have wanted. Also got DSQ from Q2. Levy has had a decent night, a bit of an up and down night. But at the moment, in P6, it's still a very possible third place. There we go, you can see third place, it's right there. Any mistake from any one of those cars in front of him, the result could change very, very much. Nick Gishin still leads the way. Kev is nowhere near him. 5.2 seconds is the gap. Then Dan Ridfeld P3. A lot more action on this part of the circuit. Top 2, a little boring. P3, far from decided. Dan Ridfeld leads the way of that battle. He was followed by Panda, and then we have Flynn and Levy. Now we have Swiss chasing J-Boy for P7. He does have the superior tyre at the moment. But remember, those mediums will start to drop off before the hards drop off. At the moment, might just be on the wrong compound. I think the compound might start going the way of the hard runners. Finally, we get a pass. Dan Ridfeld, Panda, he was patient, he was there for a long time, but he gets it done. Panda goes up into P3. Dan Ridfeld's not going to let this go. He knows his best opportunity to get that position back is to get that position back as soon as possible. Cannot let that horse get up the road. He's got to stay with him. He's got to stay within his DRS. And he can't do anything too crazy. If he loses momentum, he could get swallowed up by the next 2 cars behind him. A bit of a gap forming there in that 4-car battle. 2 cars battling, and then a little bit of a gap, and another 2 cars battling. Guys, I do my best with the stream. I try and get as many camera angles as I can, but anyone who's played the game knows that you get 1 camera angle at a time and there's 15 cars on track. So I try and do my best. It's not F1 TV. I don't have multiple monitors, so I'm doing my best. Some people say my voice is too soft when I do the TV pod, and other people say it's too soft when I do the broadcast. So channel is still new, we're still figuring this out, and hopefully by next season we'll have a much better idea of what we're doing. I still have a long way to go when it comes to this streaming thing. I've been doing this for a while and I can't hear the cars. I can't hear the cars. I need to split my mic and my headphones, and I haven't done that yet. So when the comment section starts complaining about the sound, it's a little bit difficult for me to fix it because I can't hear anything. But hopefully I'll get that sorted out by the end of the month. I want to give you guys the best quality stream possible, but I need a little more practice. Flynn in P5, giving me a little fright there as he came through the ghost car of an Aston Martin. I believe that was Arnold Ghost. We do have ghosting on. I've seen leads where ghosting is left off and cars get stuck behind those cars for lap after lap after lap, ruining their race to a car that's not even there. And Rietveld still hasn't given up on P3. He's still chasing down Panda, the gap 0.3 of a second. We still have quite a ways to go in this race, another 8 laps. How far can these medium tires go? And will the guys still be comfortable on those medium tires at the end of the race? Or is everybody going to be tiptoeing around doing tyre management? Aston Martin looked pretty close at the start of the straight, but didn't make any move there. Just got to be so careful. Where do you make the move? Can't make the move in the wrong place, run into the next car, lose all momentum, and then just end up giving the position back. Voice is fine on the onboard cam. Okay, so tell me, when I'm on the broadcast, is my voice too soft or is the game too soft? That's something I need to figure out. So when I'm on the broadcast cam like this, is my voice too soft or is it the game that's too soft? Because that's something I think I'll be able to figure out. Initially I changed it because the guys were saying don't go on board, because when you go on board you can't hear you, you're too soft, your voice gets drowned out by the engine. So I tried to correct that, but it seems I may have made the game too soft. Oh, there we go, it's the game. We'll try and get that sorted out for the next stream. This is Flynn in P5. This field has stayed pretty close together. A little further back we see a DRS battle between 02Cool and Shane, P9 and 10. And 02Cool is going to get the position very easily. In fact, he made that pass right at the beginning of the straight, so no question. Goes into turn 1, he's in P9 and he can now chase the other Alpine. Boinky's not too far ahead. Goes up the inside, and now he should have the inside up here, but the Alpine's not going to give it to him, not at all. Holds on. That's fantastic driving, wheel to wheel, and more importantly, no carbon fiber for flying in any direction. This is Shane. Rather, this is 02Cool. This is Shane. Getting dropped off a little bit now. Remember, 02Cool, he has a brand new set of softs, so he'll have the best tire compound on the track right now. Should be giving all of these guys a handful. Next man he's going to be giving a handful is the other Alpine of Boinky's. Hasn't been able to dispose of him yet, but now he has. Easily done. Does it at the start of the straight. And now 02Cool disposes of both Alpines within a lap. And he can begin his chase of Swiss. But I don't know if he's going to get there, because that is one heck of a gap. 21 seconds, the difference between 7th and 8th. The only thing that's going to close a gap like that is a very late safety car, and I think we've seen the end of safety cars in this race. We may have hit our limit very early on when we're still under wet conditions. Good result for Levy. Might just be a frustrating race for him, because he can see those positions in front of him. Just can't make the overtakes, just can't make the progress. Probably just finds himself a little trapped there in P6. Remember, he was on the medium tyre while all those cars in front of him were on the hard tyre. Probably should have felt he should have come through the field a little more effectively. He wasn't able to do so. At the front, Nick Gishan leads the way by 8 seconds. So no need to give the Ferrari any more airtime. But there he is anyway. Nick Gishan leads 7.6 seconds. Then Kev, also very lonely race for Kev actually. Car ahead 7 seconds, car behind 3 seconds. So he can't see anyone in his mirrors and he can't see anyone up the road. As for this man, probably wishes he had a more boring race. Panda, now he leads that DRS train, lap 33 of 36, and I think Dan Rittveld, there we go, nicely done, up the inside. Is Panda going to hold on? No, he's not. I thought he might have tried to hold on to the inside for the next corner. Now it's almost a situation like when you're in IndyCar racing. Do you want to be in the lead right at the end there, or do you want to have DRS on that final lap? Sometimes in IndyCar on the oval circuit, you don't want to necessarily be in the lead with one on that as that final lap begins, because not having slipstream on that last lap could be the difference between winning and, well, not winning. If you ever followed the teachings of Ricky Bobby, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're not first, you're lost. Just sounds much better with a southern accent. Panda looking for a way through. He wants that podium back. He had it for a few laps. You would have enjoyed that. You would have been already imagining the taste of the champagne. But for now, that last podium step has been taken away from him. He's in 4th place. He'll be able to see it. It's oh so close. But he's still got a lot of work to do if he's going to get it back. Now we've got Flynn and Jebby, or Lebby rather. Lebby and Flynn all over the back. Very close. Is Lebby going to still take 5th position? He's been stuck in 6th for so long. But now it just looks like he's had enough. It's going to be now or never. Lap 34 of 36. You're running out of laps. You're running out of tarmac. And if you're going to go for the position, if you want an improvement, you need to do it now. We had such a long evening. We had Q1, Q2, Q3. We had an insane amount of safety cars and weather. And yet it still comes down to this. Lebby 0.3 of a second adrift. Goes to the inside, thinks about it, but he was nowhere near close enough. Sometimes it's good just to bob, just to weave, let that driver know. He'll know you're there, but there's no harm in just popping into his mirrors every now and then to give him a reminder. As for Panda, I think he's missed out on this podium unless he can do something very impressive. Or if Dan Rittveld is going to make some sort of an error. This is the closest battle on track at the moment. It's Panda, Flynn, Lebby, Dan Rittveld. Everybody else is pretty far spread apart, so we're going to stay with these 4 cars. Shane sets the fastest lap for the race. Man down in P12, currently out of the points. He's on a fresh set of softs, but pick up P11, he's got to find another 5 seconds. So feels very spread out at this late stage. And Panda running out of time. This is the final lap, lap 36 of 36. And if he's going to get it done, he's going to have to get it done on this lap. As things stand, we're looking at a Red Bull 1-2 and a Ferrari domination. Nick Gishin leads the way. We still have battles on track. This is Panda. This is the closest battle on track that we have. Levy also just behind Flynn. Is Panda going to be able to do anything? Is he close enough? Can he steal something? Will Dan Ritchelt make any sort of error? Doesn't look like it. Maybe just a little too late. And crucially, I didn't want to say anything because of commentator's curse, but I guess the checkered flag has fallen. I can say it. It's been a very, very long time since I have seen a race with no penalties on your screen. That is pretty impressive. For a layout like Zandvoort, for everybody to stay within track limits, very nicely done. We're still waiting for some driver 0 to cool, about to go over the line in P8. Then we await Boinkies. And then Quibus. Showed a lot of pace in qualifying, showed a lot of pace in the start of the race. But it's been a race of ups and downs for most of these drivers. If you pit at all the right times, you'll probably be in the right place. If you pit at the wrong times, well, then this race didn't go the way you would have wanted. That's why every now and then you see some really quick names at the bottom of the field. And there we go. That is the end of round 9, season 9. Now we just await the official results. There we go, Ferrari on the top step. Nick Gishin winning that race for Ferrari and doing so by quite the margin. Started from pole position and converted it into a win. Kev, great job. P2. Dan Ritchelt, he was able to stay in front of that DRS train. He's P3, so that's 2 Red Bulls on the podium. Panda so close, P4. Then we've got Flynn P5. They're followed by Levy, Swiss, 0 to cool, Boinkies. And the final podium and the final points position going to Quibus. Not in the points tonight, but they did finish the race. Rota P11, Esotronic P12, Shane 13, Arno Ghost, I believe that was a ghost car, and then 4 DNFs for the night. Those DNFs, J-Boy, Stoffel, Ariamondi, and Fuster. Guys, I want to thank you very much for everybody who has joined the stream, joined the video, watched tonight, supported DRS. Obviously DRS, the race did fantastically well last week and broke records here on the channel, and that's all due to the viewers at home. I had 1 or 2 complaints in the comment section, and I'll look into fixing these sound problems, and hopefully by next week we have a improvement in our sound. Thank you to everybody who has joined us. Thank you to everybody who continues to join us. We have the same people coming in and watching and it's fantastic to see the same names and the same people interacting. We will be back on Sunday, and we will be back next week with SAFRL. So the channel's been a bit quiet lately, but the channel's going to pick up a lot in the coming weeks, and I hope to see you all here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Every subscription helps, every like helps, and share this with your friends. Share this far and wide, and let's get this channel and these leagues out as far as we can. Thank you to everyone. I'll see you soon. Until then, cheers.